Welcome everyone to our episode 5 of Ask Us Anything. Today's topic is role of youth in climate action. And the speaker today we have is Harry from Mauritius. Welcome, Harry. Harry is a entrepreneur, clean tech entrepreneur from Mauritius, and in fact, a young entrepreneur. Over to you, Harry. Please introduce yourself, who you are, how did you become a young entrepreneur, and how you became a future energy leader.
Thank you, Lala. Hello, everyone. As Lala just said, I'm Harry, and sorry, I like to apologize beforehand because I've got a cold, so kindly bear with my sneezing and coughing. So yeah, I'm a native and of Mauritius and grew up on that very beautiful island in the middle of the Indian Ocean before leaving abroad for my tertiary education. I started my professional career in the energy consulting field. And after that, I decided to start my own firm in the clean tech industry. And so basically, I'm involved in the provision of clean tech technologies like renewable energies, energy monitoring equipment, and over equipment such as equipment for the recycling of waste oil. And actually got to meet Lala through the Future Energy Leaders program of the World Energy Council. So basically, the World Energy Council is a UN, United Nations accredited energy body. It was founded in 1923 and is the largest network of energy practitioners in the world. So we have that program, the Future Energy Leaders program, which regroups hundreds of young energy professionals around the world. And I've been into that program for 4 years before the end of my tenure. And now I'm serving in the modest role of mentor to Lala, who is presently going through that program. Anything else, Lala?
That's a lot. Thank you, Harry. Yeah, so today we are going to talk about role of youth. And my first question would be how do, like, of course, we are like majority of our audience is from Pakistan, and climate is not necessarily a very common field, a common subject that's taught in Pakistan. We still need years until our curriculum change. So how do we educate ourselves if we are interested in field before like starting any action?
And that's a very interesting question because the climate transition that the global environment requires necessitates a certain amount, a certain scale of talent, to which at the moment we don't have. Hence, it's very pertinent for us, notably youngsters, to equip ourselves with the relevant skills in order to be able to participate in that climate transition. So back to your question, how do we seek that knowledge? How do we hone our skills? How do we hone our knowledge? Well, thankfully, in that era of information, we have different avenues. One would be through Climate Action Pakistan itself and the wonderful webinars that you do organize. As in, truly, there are like so many platforms where you can get information, where you can train yourselves, where you can again hone your skills, acquire new skills, and the main thing will be to discern on what is really relevant to you and what can be useful for your own personal professional profile. And I'll just give you a few examples for education, for the educational field, as in you have very simple, straightforward courses on Coursera. And then obviously, if you want to go to another level, you can go for like a university degree and any other such professional qualifications.
So what challenges do you think youth face if they are working in the field of climate action?
Well, from what, from my own humble perspective, there are quite a number of issues actually. One will be like the divide between the global north and the global south. So just to put things into perspective, as in the global south still has a certain capacity to develop its economy, to increase its economic output, and at some point that would imply increase in carbon emissions, for example. And at the other end, we do understand the issue that the whole world is facing with climate change and those greenhouse gases emissions. So there's a certain issue in balancing between fairness and what the whole world needs. So as you might see with the global negotiations that happen on climate, such as the very famous COP conferences, you, nations tend to navigate into between their interests, own interests, and what we as a global community needs. So that will be one significant issue. Second will be the proper allocation of resources, notably finance, technology, and expertise to countries which are highly vulnerable to climate change. For example, if I take the same concept of global north and global south, in the global south, there are so many regions which are highly vulnerable to climate change, but yet due to their lack of access to resources,
Yeah, but
they,
I'm curious. Of course, there's so much to do, but like, how can youth in particular play their role?
well, thankfully, there are so many things that we can do. I'll take my own example. So I've
Yeah.
tried to do my own part in through the entrepreneurial way by
Mm-hmm.
devising and providing climate solutions to the local market. And then I've also been volunteering in climate charities such as the World Energy Council.
Mm-hmm.
And at the base, when you think of the youth and climate action, we need to understand the very particular situation that the younger generations are facing. So if you look at key decision makers, most of them are from the older generation, while the burden of climate change is disproportionately felt by the younger generations. So there's definitely that necessity for the younger generations to get into climate action and work alongside the older generations in devising new effective climate solutions. And getting back to how the younger generations can get on that pathway. Well, besides the traditional pathways, which I've just mentioned, you have so many avenues that are now getting more and more popular. You have advocacy platforms where the youngsters can use those platforms to advocate for more climate action to be taken in respect of their own necessities. And it can be at a very simple level, like measuring your own carbon footprint, which will allow you to better assess your impact on greenhouse gases emissions and how to better manage that in the future. So in brief, there are like quite a number of avenues, and I will definitely encourage the younger generations to look at what is appropriate for them and do what they can.
Yeah. Do you think the role we play, like for example, whatever climate action Pakistan is doing or people joining us would be doing, that will impact on policy and decision making at a bigger level, like nationally and internationally? And
As
like, can
in,
you think of an example?
you mean youngsters?
Yeah, like our role in policy change.
So getting back to that mismatch between uh, key decision makers, which again are mostly from older generation, and the perspectives of younger generation, it's very important for the younger generations to bring their their specific perspectives, their specific insights on the table, and share those insights with policymakers, notably, so that their perspectives are properly incorporated into that process. And talking about an example, well, can use the example of the Future Energy Leaders program itself. And then we also have the Youth Advisory Panel for the United Nations, where a group of youngsters were selected to to share their perspectives with the United Nations on the topic of climate change.
Yeah. Perfect. So I'm also curious, how can we like have a balance between sustainability first and being active versus our career versus like, of course, work-life balance is already a big thing for youth now, but climate action, does it come as an added responsibility if it's not a significant part of my career? For example, I am in a career, medical or something, which is not directly related to climate action. So how do I bring this balance?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, obviously, in certain sectors, the balance is very natural. But again, as you just said, in certain sectors, it might not be that
Yeah.
that alignment might not be very practical. So, how do you get to that balance? Well, with from my own humble perspective, I think with collaboration and exchanging with your stakeholders, you'll be able to have a proper view of how sustainability is interacting with the dynamics of your environment, and how you can integrate sustainability into the way forward of your organization, your team, or your own life.
Yeah. So like we are blessed to be in a computer era where everything is very accessible. And so how does social media and digital platforms help us to further engage the climate action among ourselves?
Well, digital media offer a very practical and accessible pathway to climate knowledge. But then obviously, as we all know, social media is not very much regulated in terms of the content, information, etc. So again, we have to use our own power of discernment. And social media also allow us to collaborate with like-minded peers. For example, we have that very own situation of a youngster from Mauritius and a youngster from Pakistan collaborating on a webinar on climate action. So social media, digital media can offer that accessibility, can offer that connection to allow as a whole ecosystem to mingle and collaborate on climate action.
Perfect. So what skills or knowledge do we need in order to be further active in climate action?
Well, I'll say there are quite a variety of skills that you do need. I'll start with the soft skills. Right now, again, the younger generations need to be really active on the advocacy side. So public speaking will be a certain skill that might not be very much talked about in certain circles, but definitely it is very relevant to climate action. And other soft skills will be negotiation and teamwork, the ability to work within a team, so what we call cultural competency, or the ability to work with people from different cultures, from different backgrounds. Everyone will consider that climate change is a global issue, so we definitely need that collaboration between people from diverse backgrounds, diverse countries, diverse industries. And in terms of hard skills, well, again, there's quite a variety of skills, and at the base, I think it's important for anyone, whether you're in a sector which is very exposed to climate change or not. I think it's very relevant for everyone to be able to assess our own impact on the climate change issue, on greenhouse gases emissions, and how to do that would be simply to know how to calculate our own personal carbon footprint, or the carbon footprint of our organization, of our, let's say, of our unit, of our building. It's at the base, it's what I will call a very elementary but very key skill that I will recommend everyone to learn.
Yeah. We have a question from audience. Yes, Shahad, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Shahid Lagari. I belong from TVO, Trust for Volunteers Institute, TVO, Pakistan. TVO is a national donor which is under Ministry of Past TVN. Recently, we have launched and we are demanding NGOs from the NGOs on project proposal on climate change, backward areas of Pakistan, especially Sindh. So I want to clear that climate change, here is the perceptions and ideas of the different NGOs, only the tree plantation in the different areas. It means our schools or basic health units and other places. I want clear to that anything we can change tree plantation in other project topic on climate change. Because they are the both subsectors of climate change, not only tree plantation and other topics are also be added. You can help us? How can we request them or our NGOs to submit their proposal out of tree plantation?
Well, thank you, Shahid, for your question. If I'm getting it right, you're asking me about how NGOs can provide proposals on reforestation programs.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not an how do you call that, an expert in that field, but there have been like some very interesting features happening in that sphere. So nowadays we have what we call carbon credits, which are available for such projects and which make it viable, financially feasible for fund allocators. And with such incentives that will improve the ability of such projects to attract capital. So that will be from the financial perspective. And now in order to gather interest for such projects, which are personally for me, they are like very important. It's very important it's very pertinent to be able to explain to the wider community how those projects will benefit the environment, the locality, the region, the whole country, the whole community. When you're talking about reforestation, for example, something that is very evident will be the amount of oxygen that they release into the atmosphere. And then obviously we have their water retention capacity. And forests, trees have so many benefits to the community, to the environment. And again, it's something that is very essential in gathering interest for such projects will be to properly demonstrate and evidence the potential benefits that you're able to reap from such activities.
Yeah. Another question that we have in from audience is that how to keep something in practice as about the habits related to climate change to each and every individual.
Sorry, I'm not getting your question.
So they're asking about like how to keep good sustainable practices as like habit, and like not to miss on that, because for a day or two maybe they're good, but then we just kind of miss on that.
Okay, I get you. Well, that's an interesting question. So basically, I think it will somehow to how you can preserve good habits. And well, I'm not a very good example of that, but let's take the example of something really, really that everyone can relate to. I guess in summer in Pakistan, basically everyone will be using fans or air conditioners. So,
Yeah.
well, usually in offices, they tend to drop the temperatures to very low temperatures, which one is not only affecting the comfort of the occupants, but also being very harmful in terms of release of greenhouse gases. So something that you could remember is when you communicate with your colleagues, when you communicate with your superiors, you can share your insights about how that practice can be amended and how it can be incorporated into guidelines of let's say, how the occupants need to use the facilities present in the office. So I hope that example can be useful. And well, in general, I would say it's a question of habits, how
Yeah.
to preserve good habits.
Yeah. So the floor is open to all participants for any questions. You can either raise your hand or put your question in the question answer section or the chat. And if not, my last question to you, Harry, is like, what's the last advice that would you have, maybe from your entrepreneurial experience? Like, of course, you would feel even more nicer that you are doing you're playing your part for youth in Pakistan.
I won't say advice because I don't think I can provide that. I'm sure there are like many persons which can be which will be more appropriate to reach out to for like proper advice on climate action. But if I can share something from my experience, well, in the field of climate action, things can be tough. There are as I could notice, there can be certain issues, certain divergent interests from traditional industries, traditional activities, which have been set up, designed using that framework of using resources, of polluting. And there tend to be a certain clash at some point between new business models, new activities which are more eco-friendly. And if I can share something from that experience of mine, would be to persist, to collaborate with like-minded peers, and to seek the maximum amount of knowledge that you can.
Yeah. Yes, Farzana. We have one question from Farzana.
Yeah, so it's Farzana here from Pakistan, Sindh, from interior side. Yeah. So I'm basically an ecopreneur. Ecopreneur is in a sense like I do, purchase one plant. Like I'm doing my job as a pharmacist in a hospital, so I do, purchase one plant from every salary that I do get. So my question is, this is what I'm doing from my side as an individual. But how can I, expand it so that I can, give something to my community, or you can say the area that I'm surrounded by?
So sorry, Farzan, I think the communication from my end is very good. So just to resume what you were saying, you're an ecopreneur who purchases a plant for each sale?
Each salary.
For each?
From her each salary.
Okay. Got you. And basically, you wanted to know about how you can scale up your efforts for the community. Well, to start, I'd like to say congratulations, because even if that might appear to be a very elementary step, that's already for me a huge thing to do. And now, how to scale efforts? Well, in order to be able to scale efforts, well, I think something that is key is to gather people around that vision. I'm sure in your locality, there must be over, or even like in your office, there must be other people who would be interested in such an initiative. So maybe by doing something that allows them, that facilitates that process for them, you will be able to have many more people who will be doing what you're presently doing and scale up the efforts and impact of basically buying plants.
So that's all from the audience side and also from my end. Thank you so much, Harry, for doing this, for your valuable time. And if you have any last words, we can close then.
Well, my pleasure, Lala, and I wanted to congratulate you and your organization for the fantastic work that we are doing. And that's an example of youngsters in climate action. And as you can see, you did not need much resources, but just with persistence, great willpower, and interest, as in with your focus, your passion for climate action, you were able to build such a nice, how will I say that, such a impactful organization, such an impactful initiative. So please let me know whenever I can be of any support to your initiatives. And it was nice to be able to interact with your audience and get to know about what they are doing at their end. And hopefully that session was useful to everyone.
It was very useful. And I'm glad that we interacted with audience as well. Thank you so much. That's all. To the participants, if you have received your email IDs, you'll be receiving your certificate of participation. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.